Hi Year 10s, welcome back to 10.4. We're going to be moving on to exercise 9D, which is box plots. Now, box plots are basically a visual representation of the 5-number summary. So that's the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum. What we want to be able to do is to be able to take raw data sets to make a box plot, and we may even draw pairs of box plots next to each other and compare their center, the median, and their spread through the range and interquartile range. So what I'll do is I'll take the data set from the last lesson, which is here, and we'll create a box plot of that. So the first thing you're going to need is a number line, and I recommend using a ruler. And before we draw a number line, we need to figure out where to start, where to stop. We need to start at 2, that's our minimum value, and we need to go up to include 8, our maximum. Okay, my next step is to mark in my 5-number summary. So we'll start with the minimum, which is 2. So I'm going to just put a little dash there. The next one is 5. That's our first quartile. Now it's also our median, so I'll just leave that there. Our quartile 3 is 6, and our maximum is 8. The next thing I'm going to do is draw the box and whiskers. Now the whiskers go from the minimum to the first quartile, and they're represented by just a line, and the third quartile to the maximum. And the box goes around the interquartile range. So Q3 down to Q1. Okay, so let's have a quick look at that. So what we've got here is that's Q1. Sorry, not Q1, it's Q0, or the minimum. Here we actually have Q1 and Q2, or the median, together. They just happen to be the same value, so that's why they're right on top of each other. Here's our third quartile, and this last little bit up here is our maximum value of 8. Now this box plot is a little bit unusual because of how the Q1 and the median are stacked right on top of each other. What is important to realize is that each quarter represents 25% of the data. So 25% of the data sits between 2 and 5. 25% of the data sits between 5 and 5. The next 25% sits between 5 and 6, and the final 25% sits between 6 and 8. So each quarter represents 25% of the data. Now it doesn't have to be spread out perfectly like in 4 equal sections, as this clearly shows. We've got one that's so small it's right on top of each other, but it's still, even though you can't see it on the graph, you need to be aware that 25% of the data is in there. Okay, so but what about outliers? How do we show those? You might remember last time we worked out that the upper fence was about here. Sorry, the lower fence was about here, and the upper fence was 7.5, which means that 2 and 8 should have actually been drawn as outliers. So let me show you how to deal with that. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to take our eraser and we say 8 isn't our maximum anymore as far as box is concerned, and neither is 2. Instead, we're going to mark those spots with an X to show that there is a data point, but they are outliers. Okay, so the next lowest value is 4, so I'm going to take the line and shorten it right down to there. And our next highest level was 7, so I'm going to represent that. So now what this drawing shows is that there were 2 outliers, 2 and 8. The data points are shown, but the reliable range runs from 4 to 7. Because what we done is assume that these outliers are unusual values, and we may, in some cases, choose not to consider them in our evaluation of the data. But we still have 25% of the data here, 25% squashed in there. That represents another 25%, and above the box, So the whisker plus the outlier represents the final 25%. I think the last thing I want to mention to you is when comparing the two box plots, make sure you draw them on the same number line. Don't draw them on different number lines, because if you draw them on the same number line, you'll see if one takes up more space or less space, or if one sits higher or lower. It's actually much easier to compare. And if you were to draw them on two separate number lines on an exam, you wouldn't get the marks. They have to be drawn to the same number line. So if you have one here and you had a second piece of data, second set of data, pardon me, you just draw it up here, just above it. You would not do a new number line. Okay, I'm going to stop there and let you guys have a go at the work. Good luck.